Hey guys, welcome to Psych. It's Janae. Hello, my name is Janae, and today's video is going to be about what you should think about when you're applying to PsyD or PhD programs. Okay, I'm gonna try my best. I have my spreadsheet that I made back in 2023 when I was starting to research all these different programs and what I was gonna apply to, why, and all the things that I was going to consider to help me make my decision. As a disclaimer, I'm currently in my second year of my PsyD program of school psychology, clinical child psychology. I am attending Furcoff University over there in the Bronx, and I love this program. I love the faculty there. I love how I'm being treated even as a minority, a black student. I did see some things prior to when I applied that probably would have made any random person apprehensive, but I do know that everyone's experience is very unique to them. I think that the staff is just so engaging, so accommodating too, because I am a single mom. Everyone gets it. They're just so empathetic, they're caring and compassionate, and on top they're so passionate about what they do. So passionate about what they do. So I just want to get more about my experience when I was applying, and hopefully kind of you could take away some tips from this. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. I am such a butterfly. I will be so happy to hold your hand and walk you through the things that I know I am capable of walking you through. So when I first started researching different programs, I first had to understand if I wanted to do a PsyD or a PhD program. I have another video that talks about that, so I won't really go into detail here, but yeah, I decided to do the PsyD program because I knew that I wanted to be clinical based when it comes to my career path. I do find that when you do the PsyD route, you do have more opportunities for career paths. If you know that you are dead set on doing research, then of course go to PhD route. But like I mentioned in my other video, noticing the difference between the two, understand that PhD programs are way harder to get into because they are funded. So the pool is just not as big. I did apply to a few PhD programs because one, I liked the school, so I trust that their program would do me some justice. And two, I just didn't want to limit my options. Like I told you guys, I'm coming from legal world. Consciously, I knew I had barriers. I didn't think that would stop me, and it obviously didn't, but I had to be realistic with myself. People who are looking at these applications, they're going to be like, she doesn't even come from this world, you know? So I didn't want to limit my options at all. Another reason I wanted to apply for a PhD program, because obviously if I were to get selected and I didn't have to pay for school, then at that point probably wouldn't care if I was doing a PhD program or a PsyD program, because PhD programs are funded, PsyD programs are not. So if I were to get accepted, I would for surely do the PhD program. I just didn't want to limit my options, and that's one thing you're going to learn about me. I never limit my options. I don't put all my eggs in one basket. It's just something I don't do. So let me look at my spreadsheet. Wow, so I applied to 10 programs. Outside of knowing if you want to do PsyD or PhD, you have to know where you are willing to study at, because this is a commitment. Okay, these programs could be, if it's a PhD, anywhere from 5 to 7 years. If it's a PsyD, anywhere from 4 to 6. And a lot of the time, I'm not sure about PhD programs if they require you to be on campus, but I know for sure PsyD programs do. So you have to be on campus for these at least 4 years, because your 5th year is usually in a paid internship somewhere else of your choice. But the 4 years you have to be on campus. So the first filter you should have when searching different programs is knowing where you would not mind living. Okay, I knew I wanted to be in the Northeast because I am a single mom. So at minimum, I just wanted to be in some type of vicinity where I can have access to help, that is family or friends. So I applied to a lot of programs that were in the tri-state area, and I think I applied to one program down in DC because I have family and friends there. That's starters, right? Then what I looked at is obviously the price per semester or per year for these programs. The school I'm in right now is definitely at the highest rank. There are programs that are cheaper. I don't think that the price matters in terms of where your career could take you, where you're graduating from. What I think actually trumps the school that you apply to in terms of like whether it's cheaper or not, whatever, is if it's accredited. Me, because I knew I was paying out of pocket, I wanted to go to an APA accredited program. They said those are the best programs. Like some places only take APA accredited graduates. So I was like, well, we got to go through that. So that was my second step. Which programs are APA accredited? I looked that up at the location. So once I looked that up, I then looked at what were the percentage of graduates who are currently licensed. I believe that if someone is finishing any type of training, any type of program, at minimum, they should be employed right after that. If they are not, to me, I feel like the training failed them. Okay, so if I saw any program that had like less than 90% in terms of who's licensed and employed, I was like, I'm not applying there. Did you train them up to pretty much stand out from their competition so that they first get licensed, then be employed, and to move forward with their career? If it's not over 90%, I'm not trying to go to that school because I don't want to run into those type of hiccups. I don't want any barriers up against me once I get my license, okay? At the end of the day, I'm a Black woman in America. I already got 2. Okay, unfortunately, but that's the reality. I don't need no extra barriers up when I finally graduate and get licensed. Thank you. That was what mattered to me. Then I looked at price, but I already tell you guys how I feel about money. But I didn't want to pay a lot for a school that didn't make me feel like I am welcomed there. This is going to be a very important point that I'll circle back to later. Okay. Also, I wanted to look at the average amount of years that it took the students to graduate. I know these programs are 5 years. If I'm seeing that the average amount of time it takes a student to graduate is 6, I'm going to then assume that something is wrong with the training or the program. Why are people dropping out? Is there not enough resources for people to pay for school? Like, what is becoming an issue that is making them be enrolled longer than they have to? Okay, then from there, I'm sorry, like I told y'all, I'm looking at my spreadsheet. I can't believe I still have this. It like makes me so excited to see how organized I am. And just thinking about how I really am in grad school, because just doing this chart and really going through it, in 2023, and I decided to go to grad school between September and December, I was in my master's program, a single mom, and I was working a full-time job, 40 hours a week, full-time job, and trying to get into grad. You don't even, I can't explain the stress. It's a lot of work. Grads, and I wasn't prepared for it because I think I mentioned it before. I assumed that applying for grad school was like applying to go to undergrad. You just fill out the information and you go. So it was like, no, you're really doing a lot of heavy lifting and hoping you hear back. So I wasn't even just applying to apply. I was really putting in work, like thoughtful letters, thoughtful personal statements, really engaging with the people who were writing my reference letters and telling them how much I want to do this, like, and just really pumping myself up so that energy could be felt within my application. Like, it was stressful. Okay, and so from there I made my list. Once those 3 factors, right? I want to see how much it costs and what's I guess it's more than 3 factors. First, we want to see the distance. Then I want to see if it's APA accredited. I also want to see what is the percentage of people who get licensed or who are employed after graduation, and then the cost. From there, I made a list of the schools within the tri-state area or a place that I know I wanted to live at or didn't mind living at, and decided where I wanted to apply. When you filter out APA accredited programs, the list does get smaller. And then when you're specifically looking for PsyD programs in clinical psychology, because I wanted to do clinical psychology, it gets much smaller. So it wasn't hard for me. I'm going to tell you guys the 10 schools I applied to. I'm not sure if I should share this, but I'm going to anyway. Pace University. It was a dual program too. It was a school and clinical child psychology program. Kane University was dual too. Rutgers, which is a PsyD in clinical psychology. Williams-Patterson was a PsyD in clinical psychology. Chicago School of Psychology was a PsyD in clinical psychology. I tried LIU, clinical psychology. Adelphi was a PhD program in clinical psychology. Yeshiva, where I'm at now, is a dual, which is school in clinical child. John Jay, which is a PhD program in clinical psychology. And Hofstra, which was a PhD program in clinical psychology. Out of those 10 programs, okay, I got rejected from 7, waitlisted on 3, accepted to 2. Hear that? Applied to 10, waitlisted on 3, accepted to 2. The emotional roller coaster. No one prepares you for the emotional roller coaster of applying to programs. I was stressed, okay? And I'm just gonna skip all the nitty gritty and go to the end of the timeline when I finally got accepted. And I'm just gonna tell you right now. So where I'm at right now, Yeshiva University, they told me, I believe in March or February, that I was waitlisted. Came back in April and told me that I didn't get in. Okay, the waitlist period was over, everybody accepted, whatever. Then came back like early May, like, oh, actually you're in. Yo, stop playing with me. Which one is it? Because I already cried for not getting in, so now I gotta cry for getting in. Not to mention that like the whole trajectory of my life is going to change in less than 4 months. Like, make up your mind. Because clearly I got a lot to work to do if I'm going to get in. Bang. So I accept the program. Now I'm in July of 2024. Right? School starts in August. I get a call. Someone's like, hey, yes, this is such and such from LIU, and we're reaching out because we changed our dean, and he would like to interview some of the students that applied to the psychology program, and for LIU it was a PsyD program. So the PsyD program for clinical psychology, I want to know if you're still interested. And I'm like, sure. Like, yeah, I would love that. So like mid-July or something, I speak with the dean, he interviews me, tells me in early August that I've been accepted. Yo, school starts in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What do you mean I've been accepted? But for me, it's like a stroke to my ego, because I'm coming from legal. I worked so hard, and I'm just reiterating this because if you think that you are not qualified, you will not be qualified. If you believe that you are competent enough and you have enough skill and you have enough personality and you could be liked and you can do this, you will get whatever you want. Because I don't understand how I got accepted to these 2 programs. And mind you, Yeshiva, the one that I actually chose, when I was on the phone initially, because when I started the application process, I was calling some schools, trying to get some guidance from like anyone in admissions, and just trying to understand what the process looks like, what are my odds. And I called Yeshiva and I asked, like, what are my odds? Like, let's be honest, I don't want to apply and it just looks like I'm never going to get in. And she was just like, I remember the person's name, I'm not going to say her name though, but she's just like, to be honest with you, they really do look at your experience in psychology. And she was like, I know that you have a master's program, but you haven't really done any work with children, and this is a dual program with children. And I remember at the end of the conversation, I was like, I appreciate you being honest with me. And I was like, but that just gave me more ammo. I'm apply anyway. What do I lose? $50 for the application? I'm apply anyway. She's like, I will always encourage you to apply. She's like, I just wanted to give you from my experience. And to know that I got in was like, I say this. Don't tell yourself no. Let someone else tell you that. Okay? Don't talk yourself out of doing something you know you really want to do. Try it. And then if it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work for them. But you would never know unless you try. I remember the moment I got the email to get in, I was at Red Lobster with my friend. And again, if you know me, I love Red Lobster. And I got the email and I started crying. I think she has the video. If she does, I think I'm gonna like put it in here. I'm not sure. But you can't allow yourself to tell yourself no. The only way you should be doing that is if you're disciplining yourself, like if it comes to health and things like that. But when it comes to opportunity, no, don't tell yourself no. Don't ever do that. That's the worst thing you could do to yourself. But anyway, so those are the schools that I applied to. Let me see what else I have here in my notes. Okay, and then once I knew which schools I was applying to, I just made a spreadsheet that broke down everything that each school required. So here are my categories. I have the fee, so that I was able to know how much I had to pay for each application. They have a program, I think it's PsyD, where a lot of the schools use it. You just upload all your stuff there instead of doing it one by one for each school. So that was convenient. I was able to waive the fee. I forgot how. I don't know if it was because I was a mom or I can't remember, or maybe because I was still a student at the time, but I was able to waive a few fees. But research that. See if you're able to waive a fee. Try to waive it if you can, okay? Because they add up. I think all in all, I probably spent like $200 on fees, but for the most part, a lot of them got waived. So category for the fee, the school name, the type of program, if they needed a transcript. So a lot of the schools did require a transcript. If they needed a resume or a CV, all the schools required either a resume or a CV. So please work on your resume. And if your resume isn't long, do not worry. I'm in a cohort with students who are just getting out of undergrad, who've never worked before. Some of them did some internship work, but don't let that discourage you. It doesn't matter. Like, just submit whatever they ask you for. If they needed a GRE, a lot of schools are moving away from requiring a GRE to get in, but I took the test for one of the programs. Actually, I think I submitted my test scores to Yeshiva, and girl, I think I gave myself, remember I started very late with the research. I gave myself like 30 days to study for the GRE, and I like to think of myself of being someone who is smart, but I never really knew how challenging the GRE is, because it's from information that you learned when you were like 15 to 20 that you never use again. That test is ridiculous. Like, you've ever taken a test and you're looking at the questions like, is this the material I was studying? Like, I don't recall any of this. Like, that's the GRE. But anyway, due dates. Please notate the due date of every program that you are going to apply to, because it becomes a lot and you are going to forget, and you don't want to keep going back to each program to remember what date is which. Write it down, keep it in a column, and try and submit way ahead of the due date if you can. Personal statement, I would put whether the program needed a personal statement, and for the most part I think all of the programs did. The difference was what type of personal statement they needed. Some didn't care if it was generic, others really had questions that they want you to answer, so be mindful, write that down. Essays too, so someone need a personal statement and some will require an essay. If they required an essay, I would typically submit like what an essay I wrote in my master's program or something, because again, it geared towards psychology, and I felt like at least this can showcase how I can write about theory or any type of like diagnoses and assessments, like my knowledge and where it stands at right now. So I felt like that was a good indicative way to show like the type of student I am currently. Reference letters. Yes, so I would make a column on whether or not they needed reference letters and how many. Some schools will need 1, some schools will need 3. You need to know. Average years, I would put that in, what percentage of them were licensed psychologists, employment percentage, and then how many credits. Oh, I didn't even talk about this. So I went into a deep dive to see how many credits each program required, because I'm like, once the numbers start getting crazy, like right now I can see the lowest number was 93, and that was at Rutgers. Highest number was 121, and that was at Kane. That's a lot of credits. So I already knew like what to expect in terms of the coursework. But then I'm like, do you really want to? Girl, it's a lot of credits. Like, you want to be in school. You might be in school for summer. That's how I determine, like, am I going to be in school for summer, winter? Like, it seems like this is going to be very long semesters. I made a column about the debt or how much each program costs, and just little notes that I had for each program. So, yeah, that is my recommendation on how you should break down the programs you're going to apply to, how you should filter them out, what you should look for. Because just be mindful, because once they tell you you're in, there's really not going to be much that drives you away from committing to that. But you want to make sure you're committing to something that you're at least comfortable in, whether it's the distance, the price, the type of program, the length of the program. Just get all of those details, you know, gathered up so you can really make a very informed decision and be very comfortable with the decision you made. I know when I was applying, my top school was Kane University, so when they waitlisted me, I was like so happy. But it was my top school because I went to their open house and it just felt so warm and inviting and engaging. But where I'm at now, I love Yeshiva. I love Yeshiva. Like, it's just, it feels like home. And I pray that whatever program you get into feels like home too. One very big tip, not to scare you, but to also just make you be aware. If you are interviewing on the phone and you can't feel any type of connection with the person who is interviewing you, whether they're too stern or they're abrupt in how they like transition from one topic to the next, or like, I remember those things. And I remember one school in particular where I was on the phone with them, and I was in Thailand too, and I was just trying to engage, like, yeah, I'm so happy I was able to take this call. I'm traveling, but all the way from Thailand, but I wanted to take it. And they were just so dead on the phone. And I was like, as soon as I got off the phone, I was like, I don't want to go there. And then when I went to their open house, I was like, I definitely don't want to go there. But I did make a friend, and we are still connected to this day. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. But yeah, that's all my tips. Thank you for taking this time out to hang with me. If you have any more questions, just let me know. Bye. Thanks for stopping by the office. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.